So I'm working on fine tuning and tweaking things now that the engine's down in the boat, and you can see I still got extra board there, and I've got one on that side and actually have it in the back. I've got a little interference back here, I guess up here. Now on the bottom side of this heat exchanger, there's a drain plug, and I'm gonna have to cut a notch out from that floor timber because I was wanting to lower this all the way down. I have spacers just 2x4, basically 1.5 inches up, and that'll allow me to put this all the way down, and then I can see what's going on here. It's hard, you can't really see, but I've got some interference, possibly that floor timber, which I did do a cutout of, but the bottom side of that transmission, I need to slide the engine, the whole thing forward just a little bit more, and I think that'll take care of that. So anyway, and then also, like I mentioned, you can see how I've got these mounts. You can see that. Yeah, so I flipped them 180 degrees, so they will sit on top of these 4x4 square tube. It's 1/2 inch thick, and so, and of course that piece of 2x4 will not be there. So anyway, that's what it's looking like so far, and so I will just keep working at it. So I'm working on fine-tuning how this engine's going to go in, and I've got some interference down here at this frame. I've got to frame 3 I need to cut out. So I've got the engine jacked up. You can see it jacked way up on those and up in front too, but the main thing isn't back, because down here, that frame 3 right there, I've got to cut that down quite a bit, because the bottom part of the transmission, you probably can't see it, sticks down, and I was hoping I could position the engine transmission so it could either be in front or behind this frame 3. I mean, I had some cut out already, but I need to cut out more. So I've got it jacked up, and I'm going to try to do it, and I'm going to use my this Dremel tool, hopefully with that half circle blade, to do most of the cutting, because basically I have to see if I can point this out. I've got to come down roughly to the top part of that little piece in the middle, all the way down to there, and then over here I've got to come down, you know, basically 3/4 of an inch. There's a cutout, so I'm working on that. So the engine fits nicely down in the cutout. I actually went a little lower than I needed to. I'm not sure how I did that, but this is better than the alternative. So it's sitting down actually close to where it needs to be, and I've got this is the 1-inch shaft or steel rod that I use to actually drill the prop shaft hole, so I'm using that to simulate the actual prop shaft. And so I put an insert in that, and that bolt comes out, and so it's close to lining up, but this angle is a little bit too steep, I guess. That way it needs to be this way. So what I need to do, I've run out of, I don't want to lower, I need to basically lower the front of the engine more, but what I'm probably going to do is lower those mounts a little, but I need to do some calculations to figure out, it's like 1.7-ish degrees that I need that to come up. And then, so when I lower the front though, then I'll need to lower the back, which I actually have room for that. So it's coming along nicely. It's setting down pretty well. It'll be nice to actually lower the back a little bit more, because these risers actually are the things that are sticking up the highest, which except for that air filter, which, like I mentioned in an earlier video, I'm gonna have to do something there because that's sticking up too high. But when I put a deck beam up here, it actually is, the engine is fitting down pretty nicely. So I'm glad about that. So anyway, I got tweaking to do, but the reason I'm kind of doing this to make sure I can get close with this is so I know where to permanently mount my permanently secure these 4 mounts. If you remember, got the 2 aluminum tubes here, but then I've got the Douglas fir you can see them there. And so I'm getting closer. So here is what the final cutout looks like up towards the rear of the engine, frame 3, for the transmission, and you can see how that turned out. And so that is the final, after it's completed, what it looks like. And I had to do more cutting than what I talked about in previous videos. I rounded off some things, so that's what it looks like. So this is what the cutout looks like dealing with the interface issues with this plumbing under this is a heat exchanger. And so you can see what that looks like. Had to do even more. And so I did slope this down a little bit for that hose. And then you can see, oops, just what that looks like. So that deals with the interface issues in the front of the engine. The engine is close to position where I think it's going to be. I'm waiting for the shaft log to arrive, which goes under there. And this is a temporary shaft, and I'm waiting for that, and then my dripless shaft seal, which should come tomorrow, but the shaft log won't come till next week. But I want to confirm I've got enough room here, because it's just over 8 inches from here up to there, and that's actually the 3D model that I made. That's about what I had planned on. And then back here, I had to do some more cutout of this frame here because of some of this plumbing at the bottom of that heat exchanger. And so right now, temporarily, I have it just setting on some wood blocks. Those are the pins that go in these motor mounts. And so what I'm going to have to do is actually cut out, make notches down inside my Douglas fir motor mounts that I showed. There you can see the back side of that one. So the base of these motor mounts will sit down. I'll probably make a notch about 3/4 of an inch, and then that'll allow me to have the engine setting about where it's sitting now. And so it's actually lower than I thought it was going to be, which is good. And I temporarily put the deck beam in here, and the top of the deck beam is close to the top of this filter. So I still may do something with this filter to lower it, but everything else is actually pretty good. Now the top of these risers is a little higher than I'd want, and these risers are a little wider than I would like, but it's going to be manageable now, so I'm glad. So when I build the motor box, it won't be too tall, and width-wise, again, it'll be a little bit wider than I'd like, but anyway, it's turning out real good though. So I thought I'd show just a little bit how I maneuver this engine once it was in place. When I've had to deal with interference issues back here on frame 3 and also a little bit on frame 4, what I do is, instead of pulling the whole engine out every time, which I definitely did not want to do, if I could avoid it, what I do is I just have my engine hoist locked in place, and then I use this chain hoist to lift up one side or the other of the engine. So, and then down here, because these chains are a little bit oily and stuff, so I just have a towel sitting down by the boat, and then I just raise it like this. And what that does then is allows me to put some blocking under each of these motor mounts. So on this engine, there are 2 lift points. There's this one right here, and then there's one right up in front on the front right side. And this is not exactly in the center, a little to the left. And what I have is 2 shackles, and I made sure the weight capacity of these was well above what I need here. And so that's what I do. Lock this up, and then I'll put some blocking under here, and that way I can work under here without with it being safe. So I thought I'd back up just a minute, show you the engine hoist, and then there's a chain hoist up top. So just kind of showing that a little bit wider angle from the detail from the previous video.